I wanted to make a quick video here on NIO. Big red day today, down over 5%, almost 5.5%. And, now we're starting to test some, pretty key technical indicators. Not only are we down here sitting on a support, and we actually broke and closed below it. I have my support line drawn in right around 327, 328. So, I mean, we closed right on it. After hours, we moved down just a little bit. But you can actually see we moved as low as 320, and we actually hung around there for a little while today. And you can see we closed. We're right in here around 326. But specifically, I want to look at this weekly chart. So if you've seen some of my other videos, I talked about how we finally broke through this moving average here on the weekly time frame, and that was a good bullish sign here on NIO. Since prior to breaking through it, it had been months since we had seen the price above that moving average. So to see it move above, that was a bullish sign, but now we are testing it. We bounced on it today, with that move down to 320, and you can see we had some buyers step in and move it back up as we were moving into close. But now, the real question will be is moving into next week, are we going to see the price continue to fall and break down below this moving average here, this 9-day moving average on the weekly chart? In that scenario, that would be a bearish sign here on NIO, that we could be seeing prices fall back down to levels that we saw a couple months ago. And then I also was looking at the yearly time frame here on NIO. So we had come up, I think at the time of my last video, NIO had tapped this 100-day moving average for the second time, and we had dropped back down, and we were kind of getting squeezed between the 9-day and the 100-day, and we eventually dipped below it. Well, now we are also, not only are we sitting on the moving average for the weekly, the 9-day moving average on the weekly, but now we are getting mighty close, and we actually tapped the 50-day moving average on the daily. So again, if we start to see us or NIO drop lower, that would be a negative sign, on the weekly, on the daily here, and we could be seeing levels back down to 312, $3, 290, and maybe even as low as 260 if people are starting to realize that the price is deteriorating. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the 4-hour chart so we can throw in some support lines. You can see I have this little wedge formed here. So this could be the break to the bottom side. This move, while I was anticipating that we might see a pop above on that week or on the daily chart above the 100-day on these penny stocks, you really have to be careful and not put all your eggs in one basket and wait for a break and then trade it, because you can kind of be wiped out. So this would have been when we tapped the 100 on the daily, and if you got in there and held hoping that we would break, you're looking at about a 10% loss if you didn't cut at some point during this decline. So it's really best to wait for a break and then kind of enter into your position. And that's just my opinion. But Moving on, my first level here to the downside, if we don't hold this current level right in here around 328, that 320 mark is important, as we saw on the weekly and daily chart, but here on the 4-hour, right around here at 312 is where I'm going to put in a support line here on NIO. If we don't hold that, I think we could see a quick move down to 3, with a possibility of seeing 290. If it is a quick move down to 3, with the fact that usually when we hit this $3 mark, it's quick, it's impulsive. So we saw this pop to 3, and then we sold back down to the low 290s. We got to the 290s and then saw a quick pop up above 3 and then held 312. So if we see a move below 312, it could be a quick waterfall sell down to the low 290s, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a line in here. Now, if we start to see this really unravel and we get down here, we could be dealing with the 260s again, but that is a big decline. I don't know if we'll see that all in one day. Down to the 290s, that's another 10% decline. If we're going all the way down to 260, you're looking at about a 20% decline. So, these are things that you need to be mindful of. We're also looking at a crossover here with the 100-day and 50. It looks as if they are both starting to point to the downside now, so that's a negative sign here on NIO. So just be mindful of that. We're currently sitting right on or just below a support. Next one being 312, which was roughly a let's see, about a 4% decline. So, you got 4%, 10%, and 20% as being the big supports if we do see a move to the downside. Now, coming back up, if we were to move back up, I would say 340. So, when we are looking at this channel, I'm actually going to move it into the hourly. When we are looking at this channel back in here, it was really anywhere between 340 or 330 and 350, with 340 being the median. So I think if we were to move back up, I think that the 340 mark would be a resistance, especially since that is where we started to see the more quick decline here today. You can see we bounced right in here around 338, tried to hold back up, and then we sold off the next hour. So that 340 mark might be a pretty significant resistance if we head back up, along with 350, and then this upper trend line here on this wedge would also be a resistance if we start to move back up tomorrow and into Monday. But my view here on NIO as we move forward into Friday and into next week is that we might see some more downside, potentially down here at 312, and maybe even a break of 3 down to the 290s. So that is just my opinion. I would recommend you do your own analysis here on NIO and come up with a plan and then trade that plan. But be smart about it. Hopefully this video helped with just getting some perspective here on NIO. Looking at those longer term time frames, those are very important. Again, we are sitting on some supports on those longer term time frames, and when you're not too sure, always defer to the longer time frame to get a better sense of where the stock is moving. So again, we're sitting on this 9-day moving average here on the weekly and here on the daily, while we are squeezed still between the 50-day and the 100-day, with the 9-day pushing us down. We did bounce slightly off of this 50-day here on the 1-year daily chart. So thank you guys for watching, and hopefully this video helped you out a little bit.